There are several different ways to create details on the side of your vase. The first one we'll talk about is how to take your fingers and sculpt up different shapes and then scratch and attach them to the side. When doing this, make sure that you don't plan for any shapes that are very long and delicate, because those will break after the clay dries or it's fired. You also don't want to have any very weak attachment points like you can see here with a big heavy piece of clay that is barely attached to the side. Anything too delicate will definitely break off later. You can roll out all kinds of little shapes. There's a little ball. You can pinch up a little shape and form it into little edges, more geometric. There's a little triangle shape there. You can make more intricate shapes like an eyeball. Form two eyelids in the little eyeball. You can make flowers by making little pinch bowls and putting them inside of each other and pinching them up into petal shapes. There's no limit to the different shapes you can make. I'm just showing you all a few different examples here. For my piece, I've decided to pinch up a little star shape. And once you have a shape that you like, and as long as it's not too delicate, then anything will work. You also don't want it to be too thick. If it's thicker than a thumb, it'll crack off in the kiln, so keep it between pencil and pinky thick. And then you scratch it, dab it, press it on, and use a brush to kind of smooth out those extra scratch marks on the side, and repeat. It looks good to repeat some similar shapes around your piece. You don't necessarily have to do the same exact thing to all of the sides, but repetition does look good, so don't be afraid to use one shape more than once. And there you have it. 10 stars on all 10 sides of the pentagon vase. The second method you could use to create details on the wall of your vase is to take a little hunk of clay and roll it out into a coil. These coils could be as thin as a piece of spaghetti or as thick as your index finger. Roll your coil out and form it into any shape you would like. It could be swirls, little curlies like this. Did a little S curly here to demo with. Showing you that shape. Now that's a cool shape, but it's not actually the one I'm going to use for this demo vase here. So I'm going to set it aside and roll out another piece. This coil I'm going to roll out just a little bit thicker and use it to make kind of a zigzag line around the middle line across my vase. So I'm taking these little chunks of coils and I'm trimming them to fit and then scratching them. Make sure you scratch it up very well. Dab it with water and press it on. If you don't scratch it, dab it, press it, it will fall off later. The third and final possible way to add sculpted details onto the side of your walls is to roll out a slab. Out of this slab, you cut any shape you want. For example, I'll start by cutting out a question mark shape and just sticking that on there to show you what a slab cutout piece looks like. These slab cutout pieces look very neat and geometric, and you can be a little bit more precise than you can when sculpting something with your fingers or with a coil. For my actual shape, I'm going to put on a little triangle sliver. It has the front side cut out with an angle so that it kind of fades into the wall. And once I have that piece cut out, I'm scratching it, dabbing it with water, and smoothing it out and neatening the edges up with that brush. And I'm going to go around and do that to 3 of the 6 sides, repeating that same shape. Again, it looks good to repeat the same decoration to at least every other or every wall so that you have a nice balanced look on your piece. Now that we've looked at 3 ways to add clay to your walls, let's look at the opposite decoration strategy, carving. You can use these tools to carve into your clay to create details. Do not use a fettling knife to cut into your clay. Instead, use the back of one of the brushes and drag it through the clay. You'll know you're carving if you're actually bringing out little chunks of clay, digging it out as you go. You can carve lines. After you carve, you'll often have to go back and neaten these lines or carved areas up a little bit with a brush. You can gouge out whole shapes. Loop tool is especially good for doing that. You can also create textures by going across the clay and repeating a certain pattern or mark. The first method I'll use on my pentagon star vase is using the loop tool to create lines. I'm going to create a series of lines that go from the center point of the star to one of the points of the pentagon. I'm going to do this on every star and every side, making these little decorative V shapes. You can see that there, done all the way around. I'm happy with that, but I'm going to do another texture. I'm going to take the back of a brush, and I'm going to poke a pattern of dots into the stars to create a texture on those stars. The only carving method I have yet to show you all is how to carve out a shape. So I'm taking a loop tool and I'm slicing out the edge of a triangular shape there, making a nice little ribbon of clay and a little gouge. And I'm going to go create the bottom of my triangle and carve out the middle of it, again fading it into the walls like I did the sculpted triangle. And I'll go around and do that to the other two walls to create a balanced look. Smooth everything out with the brush. And there you go, that is now a finished piece. Now it's your turn, so go have at it and sculpt and carve some awesome stuff onto your vases.